Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back, another episode. Today I have got an awesome guest who's actually been on before, one of my coaching clients, Chris Arnold. Chris, how are you?
I am great. Thank you. Thanks for bringing me on, Gavin.
Awesome. No, it's always good to have you on because we're going to deliver some awesome value as usual. It's going to be real. Okay, you're doing deals, I'm doing deals, and we got some cool stuff that we're working on that we're going to share, okay, here in a minute. Just before we get started, guys, if you're watching us again on YouTube, okay, give us a like and subscribe. If you're watching on the podcast, make sure you do so as well. We're going to be consistently going into the new year, releasing episodes every week of good value and content. Also, if you haven't already, if you want 1,000 free leads, go to batchleads.io/Gavin, batchleads.io/Gavin. If you don't already have an account, go and check it out. Get 1,000 free leads. That's one of my sources that I pull motivated sellers from. So go out and check that out. Right. Well, let's get straight into it, Chris. We've been working on something pretty cool here over the last couple of months, not talked too much about, and I want to cover today. We've been doing a little case study. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to then incorporate just real life deals. You know, what do we see in the market from both being virtual? Okay, I'm in Savannah. I work multiple markets. We just had a meeting. We've got actually in January to set about 100, knock on wood, touch wood, whatever you people say. I normally say touch wood, you say knock on wood, the same thing. We got about 115,000 should be closing in January that's set, as long as, again, this is not in yet. So it's never in until it hits the bank and everything's signed. But that's pretty exciting. We did have a couple that actually got pushed from December into that. But, you know, we're going to start off the new year strong. But we've been working on this case study, and for you guys to get this case study, okay, it's going to be pretty cheap. I was going to do it free, Chris, but I think I might just charge $5 or $7. The reason being is it just stops like the spam stuff coming and people that don't need to be in there anyway. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. And you can get this when it goes live, and hopefully when you're listening to this episode, it will be. Go to nodeadleads.com, nodeadleads.com. You're going to be able to get this and check it out. What we've been doing is we've been documenting as we go the process of going into an old market that I used to have that happened to be Chris's market. So I was like, hey, Chris, I've got this idea about maybe looking at 2 years worth of old leads. We've not worked for 2 years. We're going to try and rewarm them up, and we're going to try and document, can we do a deal from what's in there? There's like 134 leads total. We'd done one deal from that originally we had. And then I think we had like 51 dead leads, and then the rest were on follow-up. We hadn't done any follow-up for 2 years, so we wanted to dive back in that. And I said, right, we're going to go and rewarm, bring them over to you, and let's see what we can do. So in this case study, guys, we have been documenting step by step from me having the initial call with the idea with Chris to the initial call with telling my team what we're going to be doing. I've documented all this. It's all raw. There's no pre-recording. We get on, we record, and we give you live updates. So pretty awesome. So go and check it out. nodeadleads.com and let us know what you think. Anyway, enough from me, Chris. I know I've just waffled for a few minutes there on that, but I just wanted to get the download. So how you doing?
I am doing great. Is waffled like a pro golf term, or?
Yeah, waffling means you're just talking a load of nonsense.
It's good content. You know, there's a lot of information. I think that, you know, I think your main takeaway is going to be the money's in the follow-up, right? And I think you're going to see that when you do give the final numbers. But for my piece and my experience going in and talking to these people, you know, after your team has texted and kind of warmed it up, hey, are you still interested in selling? Are you still open? So I just call it. It's really a blank slate when I call in. Hey, I'm calling about the property. And so they're always, for the most part, willing to talk about it, which is great. I think people don't understand that sometimes. Like, hey, if they're willing to sell their property and that means they're willing to talk to you. Sometimes they're rude at first. And then you're like, hey, you know what? Not a big deal. If you didn't want to sell, it's all good. So, but these calls have been really good. People were interested in hearing what we had to offer. And so that's a good kind of not an angle, but a good way to build a little bit of rapport. Like, tell me about the property, why you're interested in selling. So we're going to do an actual breakdown of the deals, but we did pull a contract out of what you guys sent me. So you sent me 21 leads. We pulled a contract. It's working right now. And so right now we're trying to get our contractors into the property and find out what's going on there. So we'll report more on the case study. So to be continued.
Yes, to be continued. And that's exactly right. So we have got a deal under contract from probably, this lead was one of the early leads that came in. I think you're working on a couple more in there as well. So, and these for 2 years have been sitting there, not being followed up. My team, we haven't been doing it. We pulled from that market, and a wholesaler on the ground that I was working with, they had a baby. We kind of just got away from it. Life happens just like it does everyone listening. And we're not sometimes, we don't do everything perfect. But I was like, you know what? You're in this market virtually from California. Okay, I'm virtual. Let's see if there's anything in this. And when we started it, we hadn't run. I didn't just do this and go, well, we've got all this data. Let's now record all these sessions. I came to you and said, this could just be like nothing. We might not get a thing. Like everyone might have already sold. But I was like, at least it's going to be raw. And people are going to say, like, I'm documenting how many sold from a retail standpoint, how many sold cash, how many told us they sold but didn't, and how many leads have we still got that we're working, to show that everything is in the follow-up, right? And to understand that if you want a profitable business, it comes over a period of time. And when we had our last coaching call, Chris, I said, I wish I could lie to people and say that, oh yeah, we closed like tons of deals off the first call. The reality is it doesn't happen, right? I wish it did, okay? But it just isn't the way that it's done now, especially with so many people coming into real estate. You've got to have the best systems. You've got to have the best follow-up, okay? And when you do, you will always win. For us, on average, it's 3 to 4 months, up to 6 months, depending on the market, of follow-up to do a deal. Right? But if you consistently follow up from 3 to 4 months ago, you will consistently do deals. And that's how you're going to then get up to them 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s plus every single month. So that's awesome. So we won't talk too much more about that because you just nailed it, to be continued. Yeah. But let's jump in. Let's talk about, why we're here. Again, we're all about giving value. Let's talk about what have you got going on? I shared what we kind of got going on in closing, but what's the latest deal other than the one in the case study that you're kind of working?
Right. Thank you. So on the case study, well, we're going to get more on the case study later, but I do have another deal that I'm working on. So just to back up a little bit on my business, this New Orleans project is a small part of what we do, right? And we're doing that together. But the rest of my daily operation is just focused on generating leads in Baton Rouge and New Orleans and calling those sellers. And so, when I first came onto the program, I hit the ground hard. I hit it running. And we did a lot of marketing for the lower value contracts. So like 150 and below. Yeah. And so the pipeline filled up real fast with those 50s, 35K, 50K, 75K properties. And so those contracts came in a little bit quicker than normal, I think, maybe because they were lower value. They were vacant. People weren't doing anything with them, kind of a thing. Yeah. And so what I did after that, so after 60 days in coaching with you, I saw my pipeline and saw this is the value of the deals in there. And so this is where we ended up making X amount of dollars, right? And I think we did 3,500 to 4K per contract net to the company. And so, which is good. That's really good. And we had, 5 of those closed. So it was great. But for me, I said, okay.
And just to jump in there, that was your portion, right? So you partnering with other people, paying acquisition, dispo, all that, that was kind of your portion. So yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So really average was 8 to 9K. Right? Yeah. So that was the gross that came on. So, 8 to 9K. So working with a partner and a team and, making sure everybody makes their money and they get what they deserve. That's what I personally was able to pull in, I think. So,
perfect.
But I looked at that and said, how can we fill our pipeline? And I talked to you about that a couple of times, and we pulled different lists. We needed to pull higher value properties. And so we did that. And so now our leads that are coming in are 250, are 200K and above type properties. And so now those are the types of contracts we coming in. We got one on Friday, and it's great numbers. And so it was definitely, it took about a month to get the contract in from the first point of contact, right? Yes, I'm interested. Tell me more. Yeah. So I had to build a relationship. The great thing, I don't go into too much detail, is I had a good background with this person. So he's a former retired officer of the military. And so I have a military background. Plus one of the properties he lives in is where I went to a military school. Anyway, so we already had kind of that. And I wanted to call and say, hey, you live where I used to go to school. And so, but it turned out they have a property in Baton Rouge that they go to once in a while, every few months. They're getting up there in age. And so they were thinking about selling it. So it's just perfect timing. And so, the ARV looks really good. It's developing in a really nice school district area of Baton Rouge, kind of the northern part of Baton Rouge, Zachary. And so, we picked up that contract on Friday, and we're working on it now. So awesome. I don't know how much more detail you want me to go into.
No, that's great. I think it's good. I mean, let me just pull apart there what you've said, just for people listening, is building rapport, right? Using situations in your life that's going to be then that people can relate to. I think it's important. Again, the military background. You were probably excited to speak to him because of his situation, regardless of the outcome, right? Yeah. And that's going to show, because you did go to school there, you did do them things, and that's probably, you hit it off straight away, and that's just utilizing every tool in your toolbox to build that rapport. Again, every seller that we talk to in our market is that they're not going to be ready to do a deal today, and that's fine. But when it becomes that they do want to do a deal, it needs to be with us. If they sign with somebody else, we did not do our job. That's it. That's the way that we analyze our market, to say, well, where did this go wrong? Why did someone else get it and we didn't? And it's not always, trust me on this, anyone listen, it's not always money. People think it's money, someone paid more. It isn't. I have got contracts before. My team still gets contracts today where they will take less money to work with us because we have the rapport, because we're being real. We're not going to contract something, okay, that is $50,000, $60,000 over, knowing we can't move it and waste everyone's time. We'll hold at the number to say, if this works out, it's in the condition, we can move it at this. Like, we're confident. And that's, so we won't just go in just to get a contract. We'll just be honest and say, we're not going to do that because we don't think it's, we're going to be able to move it. So I think building that rapport is super key, what you've just talked about. Having that relationship, and I think the good thing is why I like to get you on is that you're doing this virtual, and also you understand that you've got to work the process, which is why you get results. Okay, so your next step, as we've talked, Chris, is to get these little roles done by multiple people, which you are starting to do, but you're also seeing that you're only as good as your team. Right. And sometimes when people don't pick up them right positions and don't perform, business can go down, and you got to get back in the seat and get it right. And I think you've had a bit of that, right? You had the success early, and then you kind of leveled out because, your focus was on multiple things in your other business, and you put people in place that wasn't not quite up to par, I don't know what the right word is, but wasn't delivering what you needed, okay? Yeah. And then you have to get back in, and then it picks back up, right? Keeping the consistency.
Yeah, so they weren't a good fit for sure. So what I did exactly is, we got a lead manager, and you and I talked about it. And his position was a bit redundant because when leads come in, I'm the person that calls immediately. So when a lead comes in and they want an offer, even though they just spoke to one of my reps, I still call and introduce myself to really build rapport. And so that was a piece that I was missing. And now I remember consistently is that, people need rapport. They need to know you. They need to know what's going on. So, and a lot of people say, who are you? Why are you calling me? And well, we're calling to put an offer on your property if you're wanting to sell. And they're like, yeah, but who are you? So a lot of times what I remembered through getting a lead manager is he kind of wasn't building that rapport. Also, there's things that you can pick up on that maybe they weren't picking up on just from a trained ear of talking and building rapport. So, you can tell if you have something or not. And that's what's happening. And so my lead manager, who technically did do a good job, he moved the leads along. But what I did is I ended up going back in the system and kind of following up with a ton of the leads and missed 3 contracts.
Yeah.
Just based on me not following up, right? Or they didn't alert me to this lead or their circumstances or whatever. So my fault. I'm accountable. I'm responsible. It's all mine. And so I spoke to 2 people within the last month that said, well, I went with someone else. You guys are supposed to get back to me with this offer. And the counter offer was only like $5,000 more, right? So it should have happened.
Yeah, no.
And then do it, right?
Absolutely. If it's close, contract it. But I think that and when I knew what was happening that's broken that system, the lead manager is very important, but you had them the wrong side of you, right? The lead manager should come in after you. Okay, so that when anyone's bringing in a call, like a proactive lead, which is normally like a text or a cold call, right? That lead comes in, the next person is crucial. The next person in is the one that the acquisition, the sales person, that person to build that rapport is next up. And then from then you can have a lead manager making sure that you or your sales or acquisition is staying on top of them leads, right? But the fact that they were bringing it in, and I understand what you tried to do was to say, well, sometimes it feels like it's a redundant position because they want too much money. It doesn't. Why am I going to call them? I don't need to call them, right? Yeah. I'm going to get this person to call them. The problem is, though, is that you've missed that rapport to get them down the line when they will become motivated. So it is, in fact, really important to touch them leads, just to get in, build some rapport, get them on the follow-up so then you're in, and then anyone else can be positioned. So let's say, Chris, that you had that person back in after the call. Let's just say his name was Jeff. You could position to the seller, hey, I work with Jeff. He's my assistant or he's one of my callers. He might follow up with you as well just to check in, to see how you're doing, keep anything changing. So when Jeff gets on the phone, Jeff can say, hey, you spoke to Chris, and they might remember this kind of chemistry that you have within the team. So a lot of it's all about positioning, when you do that, taking good notes. But since you've made that change, obviously you've got things kind of back consistent again, going into the higher end stuff that we talked about, which I only normally do with people that then start to gain traction experience, right? If you would have said to, well, I didn't do it for this reason, I've never done a deal, I'm brand new, I'm going virtual, am I going to say, let's go after $400,000 houses? No. But now you've done deals, absolutely. I'd even, and I've told you this, if you wanted to go to San Fran to try and lock deals up there, and no problem, because you understand now what it takes to be able to do that.
Yeah, agreed. And, well, you got some wins under my belt, right? So I got some wins and a lot of knowledge because once the contract comes in, that's really when the work begins, right? So I mean, you did a lot of work to get that contract in, but now you have, disposition, right? So all that goes into that. So that's really, and in fact, that's the second month as I spent on closing. Right. So we brought in the contracts and now we're like, okay, we got to close them. Let's move those along. But so we need more coming in. So.
Yeah. And we had them conversations early because you were killed. I mean, you got like 12 contracts in like 36 days or something. You closed 5 or 6 of them. Yeah. And I was like, dude, we got to get moving on. Like, no more contract. Like, we're not built the system out yet to handle like the closing because everyone thinks, we laugh and take it for granted, but people will do that and not work the deal. I've got a client right now with 2 contracts and he's saying, can you help me move them? And he's had them for 3 weeks. I'm like, well, what have you been doing? Well, I've been focusing on, we got to get these things moved. Like, you need to be on it because again, people think I've got 45 days. So they kick around for a couple of weeks. Before you know it, we've got 10 days left or 7 days to get a buyer in, unless it's a hell of a deal. You got to renegotiate. You've held the contract up too long. So we've got to get on that. And that's how you start chipping away at these systems, as you build, because I've been in exactly the same position, as obviously you was in. maybe a little different because I used to partner with people and do all the acquisition and the phone work side and get them to move the deal and hand them off. And you've got that. I mean, you've got some great teams now on the ground to be able to expand this, that you guys are working well, got great chemistry together. And once you have that, it's kind of like a dream, because then you can really start cranking these things out to get it consistent, doing multiple deals every month.
Yeah. You know, the main thing when I first came into my virtual market was people don't take you seriously at first, right? Oh, I've heard it before. You know, you're going to come in, you're going to bring me some contracts. You know, this is Disposition. This is the wholesaler, my partner, who is excellent, who's in the market doing deals from A to Z. So he does his own acquisitions, at least before, and now Disposition his own deals. And so at first he was like, yeah, I've heard it before, right? And he reached out to me. I put an ad on Craigslist, and he reached out to me. And then because I needed a wholesaler partner in the market as I'm in California. And so he's one of 4 people that I spoke to. And it's the same thing. So they weren't able to deliver. He was able to deliver. I was able to deliver. And so we kind of, were in sync. But there was a lot of peer pressure there to make sure that I performed, because I said, hey, I want to bring in X amount of contracts this month, so you're going to get busy. So I kept saying that, and so I had to keep delivering on that. So it's kind of like my own internal accountability and peer pressure through that process. Was like, if I don't make it, if I don't do what I say I'm going to do in this virtual market, then I'm not going to be able to get in. Right? These people aren't going to take it seriously. And it turns out a lot of people I'm dealing with, they all know each other. Right? Yep. It's like $250,000, 250,000 people population, but it's the state capital. It's a school, a college town. So it's like all of the above. And so all the realtors, investors, for the most part, it's a small area. So they'll know each other. Especially people doing deals. The real estate world's very cliquey, right? And I'm not a cliquey person. I will welcome, if you've never done a deal, I'll give you my time of day. I'm not, you could have been, you're rich, you're broke, you've done deals, you haven't, whatever. I'll give you my time. But a lot of people, unfortunately, won't, right? And to break into these markets, you do have to deliver. There's only so much BS you can give. And I've done a lot of BS in my time, right? I really have, to get me into positions, but then you have to deliver on them. And then only, talk's cheap, right? You can give it the big one. Now you got to deliver on it. You've created the opportunity. Now let's deliver on it. And I was talking to another client, Chris, about this, actually on the last episode, about you turning opportunity down, right? I turn a lot of opportunity down that comes my way if I can't deliver on it. And that's if people bring me deals, if people want to go into a new market, if it's in the info and the coaching, some of the high, the people will be surprised. I'm not going to throw names out, and I'm thankful. I get a lot of people on the high side that people would know in the industry that come in and say, hey, like, can we work together? Can we do some deals together? And if I don't have the bandwidth or the vision for it, I'm not doing it. And I'll tell them I'm not doing it because I can't deliver on it. I'm not going to go, oh, he wants to work with me. Yeah, I'm in. Let's do this. And then I can't deliver if I think, I'm already stretched. Yeah. And what happens is by being honest about that, I'm not losing the opportunity, but I'm also just building more rapport with them to say, look, I'm not ready to take this opportunity, as great as it is. But when I am ready, I'll come back. And if you want to do it, we'll do it. But at least they'll know that I'm serious when I come back, right? And I'm ready to go. Exactly. Because you'll deliver. Right?
Yeah.
You'll deliver and do exactly what you said you're going to do early on when people, because we're gaining traction in business, but also in popularity and working with you. Everyone asked me who my coach was because of how well we were doing with our contracts and our systems and all that stuff. And obviously I gladly told them, I'm a self-made man. I don't have a coach. No, I'm just kidding. But I told them
exactly.
And then they all wanted to work with me. And I said, I'm really focused on building my market out right now. And once I have that fine-tuned with my awesome coach, Gavin Timms of REI Network, then we can talk. And so I think, and then, there were some local here. There were some larger investors that were like, hey, can you do what you're doing here? And so I had to put it on pause because I want this to work, what we're doing. Now that I see that it works, we need to increase it. And then I can start.
Yeah.
And we're in line with what you're doing.
Exactly. And that's to my point of doing that, right? Because you could go and do, I've taught you through what we do, you go and open up more markets, but it comes into what you want to do. What is your vision? What are you trying to create? And then deliver it, because you might have this opportunity, but if you can't deliver, it doesn't work. And I think that's, it's super important. It goes a long way because we are in a small, space with your investors and everything. So no, I think people are going to understand that and respect that, and hopefully they do. I don't get it now, but back in the day when I was working with Joe early, 5 years ago, people are like, you work with Joe? How did you get that? Like, Joe didn't knock on my door, and say, hey, do you want to work together? Of course not. Yeah, I created it. Yeah, absolutely. And we laughed about it. I created the opportunity. I came up with a whole plan. I taught my way into it. Now I've got to deliver on it. But don't deliver, it won't work. Obviously delivered, because here we are. And obviously I do a lot of separate stuff. From Joe, we still do a lot of stuff together as well. But, them things, we've grown. We've, 10 times the business in what we do. But you got to deliver on it. And I think that goes for anything. As long as you can bring solutions, then you can create. And it's just like going into a market. I teach, if you go into a virtual market, you're going to work with a wholesaler. You got to dominate that conversation. You got to be confident in what you're doing. You don't have to lie. There's a difference. When they go, oh yeah, we've heard it all before. You need to have an air of confidence about you, going, yeah, I know we've all heard it before. And I used to spin it when I used to go in a market. And again, me being me, it's all about they're interviewing me. No, I'm interviewing you. And I do it with buyers, right? When buyers say, oh yeah, when you're building a buyers list, oh, you wholesalers, you don't know what you're doing. You do this. I say, if let's say you were a buyer, you know what, Chris, I have the same thing about buyers. You've all got this money and you can all close. The fact of the matter is you got no money. You can't close nothing. Are you one of them? And then they're like, no, I can close. Well, I can find you deals. So what do you want to do? And then all of a sudden, now we've changed our tone. We're back on, and we can actually have this conversation, right? So just because the buyer thinks it's the same, right? I want them to close. Can you close? So as much as they can come at me, I've got enough to go back at them to say, all right, we know we got the number here, right? And then we can have a normal conversation. Same with wholesaling. If I'm going to go and open a new market, I want to go to Michigan, I start looking for wholesalers, and they're like, oh yeah, you can do this and do that. I go, well, how do I know you're going to work these leads? How do I know that you're good? How do I know that you're actually going to work these leads and do these things you say? Yeah, right.
You got to do it, man.
And we've both got to deliver, and that's in the conversation. I'll focus on delivering the leads consistently with this. You make sure you're working them, and if we both do this, then we're going to both be successful.
Well, and I think that's the main thing too, is when someone is coming on or even starting in real estate, you're timid because you don't speak the language, right? And so to come in with not a false bravado, but a sense of confidence, like, hey, I'm going to do this. That's what I think was made the difference when I went virtual, is I'm like, no, this is happening. And so every day when I got up, I'm like, this has to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Even when you propose the case study, I'm like, I'm going to have to deliver. Like, I got to call these leads. I better get a contract. Like, something better happen. As in my value, I need to show my value, or my part of this needs to deliver.
Yeah. That's a great point, because, and I was honest. I said, I've got these 130 something leads, and I was honest with you. I don't know if we're going to get a lead. I'm coming in with, we ain't called these for 2 years. This is the situation, but the ones we come in, can you call them if we get them in? You were like, yeah. We're both on understanding. Now I'm more confident with, I can lead gen all day, but with these 2 years, everything could have sold, or we just didn't know, all the numbers been wrong. You know, obviously the averages is telling you no, that isn't going to be the case. But I didn't say, hey, Chris, I've got some super hot leads over here in your market and we're going to rewarm them so you can close them. Like, that's what people would do in our industry, you know? And that's sometimes the nonsense that you're going to hear, where it's like, no, these are 2 years old. I've not done my job. We've never followed up. They're all old. We're going to call them, see if we can do anything. You in? You were like, absolutely. So here we are. So, yeah, that's a great point. So, well, good. I think this has been really good. I think it's been helpful. So, guys, I'm going to finish with you, Chris, here in a second. But nodeadleads.com. Check it out. When this goes out, we'll have this live. Make sure you sign up and, give us some feedback. It's raw. This isn't, this is real raw. I've done some recordings, obviously, as we've done this. I've been in coffee shops. I've been at the RV. I've been traveling. We've been making it happen and getting it done. You'll see me interacting with the team, with Chris. So go and check it out. So before we get done, Chris, anything else? Anything else you've got you want to say, or we're good?
Just real quick, make the calls, man. I know it's tough, and I know people get scared and intimidated, and even I feel like I'm pretty good on the phone and I get intimidated. I posted, I think on Friday, my numbers, or Thursday or Wednesday last week in our Facebook group, 11 calls, 6 sellers, and 4 offers. And that was in an hour and a half, 2 hours. And once I got into it on that 3rd, 4th call, I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then you just go, it's the starting that, you build all this up, but you just dial blindly and start calling and talking. It's all good. So anyway, make the calls. I know it's scary sometimes, but it ends up, you figure out things you didn't know were going to happen. 1 deal turned into 3 deals on 1 call. So 3 possible contracts.
Absolutely. You've just got to be in it to win it, and momentum is huge. Like I just did a good live call, actually, guys. You should go and check it out. For sale by owner call I just released on YouTube. Go and have a listen. And it's important, Chris, because momentum is everything, right? Call 1 is always going to be a bit shaky. Call 2, call 3, call 4, call 5. It all gets easier, right? And you're just having conversations. You're not in corporate. You're looking to buy something. And then if you can solve the problem, I just think people try to think they need to know everything. They don't. You just need to know enough, right? If you can engage and ask questions, that's enough to get by, for you to gather information, get this information and then have a quick look at the comps, get an offer out, and then you get faster, you get faster at it. You should be, if I get no interest, I'm comping within 3 minutes less. The offer's out. Like, if they're not giving me time of day, then my offer doesn't get time of day, right? If they're serious and we've got some motivation, I'll look at it more closely. But otherwise, just get an offer out and go on to the next, right? Call them back. Shadowing situations. So awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Chris, I'm excited to be continued on this case study. Hopefully we can get a win from this. In such a short time as well. Remember, all the money's in the follow-up. Your money's sitting in your CRM. I believe I have over $1 million in my CRM right now, with leads sitting there that we're not getting to fast enough. And if you keep chipping away, things are going to happen. You'll change. Lives will change. And be in it to win it. So appreciate you, bud. And I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.